Margaret Ara Ar céad sios an ceisio de buinse le Dina Fui on Rialacháin Oireachtas. I want to ask the Minister, we've had a number of discussions around this. I am concerned that there is a lack of clarity as to what the situation is going to be for beneficiaries of the temporary protection regulation, directive I should say, those people who are in the Ukraine before the passing of the legislation, before the current Dáil, what will be the situation with their payments when the directive wraps up?
Thank you, Deputy, for raising this matter. In March 2022, the European Council adopted unanimously the implementing decision regarding the Temporary Protection Directive due to the mass influx of persons fleeing Ukraine as a consequence of the war. People arriving from Ukraine have been granted the status to avail of income supports from my department under the directive. In October 2023, the EU Council agreed to extend the period of temporary protection to March 2025. Discussion of options for when temporary protection is due to expire in 2025 are ongoing both within government and at an EU level, recognising the need for certainty for beneficiaries of temporary protection in the EU. What is very clear is that the prevailing conditions in Ukraine will be an important factor in any decisions taken. In light of the ongoing discussions at EU level, it would be premature to speculate at this distance on what arrangements might be put in place post-March 2025, and as a result, the social welfare entitlements for those who have been granted temporary protection. However, the Government supports the strong call from EU Member States for a harmonised approach to temporary protection post-March 2025. My department has an excellent track record in reacting quickly and appropriately to emergency situations, as was clear from its response to the COVID and Ukrainian crises. I can assure the Deputy that my department will not be found lacking in its response to any planned changes that will continue to liaise with other departments in relation to this matter.
Yeah, Minister, I suppose a couple of things. The first is the Temporary Protection Directive does not require what is currently in place in relation to the same entitlements for beneficiaries of the directive as with Irish citizens. And I suppose that's obviously the case given the actions that the Minister and her government have taken in relation to Ukrainians who arrive at a later date, who will receive the rate that international protection applicants receive. Now, I've already, I suppose, outlined my disagreement with that, the fact that people who move outside the accommodation will continue to get the higher rate. I think that creates problems in rural areas in relation to the rental situation. But in particular, what I'm concerned about is, like, the government's attitude seems to be, we're going to wait and see. I don't think that's right. I don't think it's right for the system, and I don't think it's right for those who are on the current higher rate. It's very likely that either they will have to apply for international protection or for visas. At that stage, they will be entitled to the international protection rate, the lower rate. Surely, Minister, if that's going to be the case, they should have sight of that, they should know that, and we should be working towards that.
Minister.
Thank you. And Deputy, I appreciate the point you're making, but as you know, I've taken through the legislation which will make significant changes to the payments provided to new arrivals from Ukraine. And under that legislation, new arrivals who are staying in designated state-provided accommodation will receive €38.80 per week, which is equivalent to what people in direct provision receive. That legislation is at committee and remaining stages in the Shannon tomorrow, and as you know, there was broad support for it here in the Dáil, and it passed by 108 votes to 15, and I do appreciate the support that was received in terms of what I was doing. In terms of what happens after March 2025, when the directive is due to expire, those discussions are happening at EU level, and Minister McEntee is leading on those discussions on behalf of the government, and there is a desire among member states that there will be a harmonised approach, so we'll have to see if that is achievable. My view is that we have to adhere to our international obligations, but at the same time we don't want to be out of step with other countries.
I have no dispute in terms of our international obligations, and we supported that legislation that made those changes to social welfare payments for people who are arriving from the Ukraine after a certain date. But this isn't about Europe, Minister. The provision of social welfare payments is a decision that has been adopted by the Irish Government, and given the fact that very likely at the end of the directive they're either going to have to apply for visas or seek international protection and then be on the lower rate that people in direct provision get, then I don't think it's fair on anyone. It's not right in terms of the system and transparency, nor is it right for the people on those payments that they are living in the dark. And I think that, given the situation that they're likely to be in, what makes sense is a tapering down between now and then to allow people to adjust. I don't think what the government's approach, much the same as in relation to this issue generally, seems to be wait and see, and there's no forward planning. And I don't think that's fair, and I don't think it's right. And it doesn't instil confidence. It's only a year away, Minister, and this is very much a domestic competency, Minister.
Minister.
Well, just to say to you again, Deputy, the discussions at EU level have a way to go. In terms of my department, whether it was during the pandemic, the response to the war in Ukraine, or indeed the various cost of living payments we have made, the Department of Social Protection can react and respond quickly, and that's what we will do. And no, we can't predict the future here. We have to see how the discussions play out at EU level, and if there was no temporary protection status, then I would expect that the existing regime would apply. And that means a person would have to seek provision to remain under the standard international protection arrangements, or possibly through the work permit system. In terms of social welfare payments, the standard habitual residency clause would apply, and there are guidelines around that. So look, there is a bit to go yet. We do want to stay in sync with our European colleagues, as you know, and as I said, the Minister for Justice is engaging at a European level on this particular matter.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy O'Leary, you're up again for question 52.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting that. I'm sorry, just give me 1 second. So, Minister, there's a lot of talk about care at the minute in the context of the referendum, and I think we should acknowledge in that context the role that kinship carers play. Very often the unsung heroes of the system who step up when, for whatever reason, a relative of theirs isn't in a position to care for children. Very often they are working very hard, they step up, and it can be complicated, but in many instances I don't believe that they are recognised financially. But there's also a significant issue in terms of small contributions from the natural parent and what this means in terms of guardianship payment and the knock-on impacts.
And thank you, Deputy, for raising this matter. Guardians payment contributory and guardians payment non-contributory are respectively social insurance and social assistance payments made to a person caring for a child, where that child is defined as an orphan under the social welfare legislation. A child is considered an orphan if they are under 18 or 22 if they're in full-time education, and both parents are deceased, or one parent is either dead or unknown or has abandoned and failed to provide for the child, and the other parent is unknown or has abandoned and failed to provide for the child. The guardian's payment non-contributory is a means-tested payment which is based on the means of the child, the means of the guardian, including any maintenance payments paid to them in respect of the child, are not assessed when establishing entitlement to the payment. The social welfare and civil law the means of the guardian, including any maintenance payments paid to them in respect of the child, are not assessed when establishing entitlement to the payment. It's a means-tested payment which is based on the means of the child. The Social Welfare and Civil Law Miscellaneous Provisions Bill 2023 is currently before the Oireachtas and is expected to be enacted in the coming weeks. One of the main purposes of the bill is to give legislative effect to changes to the social welfare system which provide that child maintenance payments will no longer be assessed as means for social welfare purposes. This covers a range of schemes, including guardians payment non-contributory. The amendment follows on from a recommendation of the Child Maintenance Review Group, which was accepted by Government. Currently, guardians payment contributory is paid in respect of 1,575 children, with guardians payment non-contributory paid in respect of 814 children. So that's the situation currently.
Okay, so my sense of this is that either this is not maybe fully established itself yet, or maybe the change in approach hasn't factored through to the on the ground, right? Because like I got a PQ reply saying that the means of the guardian, including any maintenance payment paid to them in respect of the child, are not assessed when establishing entitlement. But I suppose the problem isn't just in terms of means when it comes to this particular payment, and I think this needs to be looked at in terms of operational guidelines and at the deciding level officer, because not just how it interferes with means, contributions from the payment are considered a contradiction to parental abandonment, which is a requirement of the guardianship payment. So if it interferes with that, then they can be disallowed. So you could get €50 from a parent who's hardly in the picture at all to the child for their confirmation, and that could interfere with the sense of them being considered parentally abandoned. So this is a problem that seems to be in terms of the actual operation of it, not just in terms of the overall means, the whole sum, but in terms of how it interferes with parental abandonment. So I think this needs to be taken up in terms of operational guidelines as to how this flows through.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Deputy. The only means that we take account of under the guardian payment is the means of the child themselves, and in most cases the child has no means at all. So we don't actually take account of the means or the income of the guardians. That doesn't come into play. So the only case where this should arise in respect of maintenance payments which are paid directly to the child. And in fact, when the child maintenance legislation I'm currently taking through the Houses is enacted, that would mean even maintenance payments paid directly to a child will now be disregarded in the means test for the guardian payment. So there shouldn't be an issue, but can I just say, Deputy, if you have a specific case, if you want to send me on the details, I'm very happy to look at it, because I certainly wouldn't want to see somebody's payment reduced because the child got a small gift in the course of it. But the maintenance payments will not be included now when I finish this legislation. It'll be finished next week, I think.
Okay. Yeah, so look, I mean, I'd say I could probably send you several cases, albeit I don't have them directly. It's Kinship Care, the subsection of Tror, that have highlighted this to me. They recently met with the Guardian's Payments Deciding Officer, well, I'm not sure recently, but in the relatively recent period. And as far as that meeting was concerned, the recent change in maintenance not being factored into establishing entitlements for other payments, the deciding officers were unaware of this. This wasn't something that they were aware of. They went on to explain that irregular maintenance or pocket money can be deemed parental contribution. So it's not about the child's means rising above a certain level. It's about the fact that there's a contribution happening at all being considered a contradiction to the fact that there's parental abandonment happening. So, Minister, I think that this needs to be, as I say, I'll send you on as much information as I can in relation to it. I would be of the view that maintenance information should be excluded from applications altogether, if that's your view as well, if you could confirm that, and any disallowed recent applications due to maintenance or pocket money should either be reviewed or contacted to the department to reapply, because people have lost out here, not because the child is over an income level, but because the contribution itself, by definition, contradicts the supposed test. Okay, sorry, thanks Deputy. You're saying that by virtue of the fact they got anything, it disqualifies them because it's not deemed then as parental abandonment. Yeah, okay. I'll speak to my officials about that, and I'm happy to engage with you because that's not the purpose here. We want to try and help people, especially if you have a guardian, and especially now that I'm removing the maintenance payment that a child may have got. That will not be taken into consideration, and it's not about putting obstacles in anybody's way here, because taking on a child that has been abandoned or has no parents to look after them, or their parents are dead, it's a big undertaking for anybody, and I'm happy to I'll look at what if you want to send me on the details, but I'm happy to look at it if that's so. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question we have is in the name of Deputy Catherine Connolly.
Minister, my question relates. I'm looking for an update on the very, very welcome long-term carers contribution scheme, or the pension for carers. I'm asking for all the details, the number of applications today, the number approved, how many have been rejected, and just what number do you anticipate applying for this scheme, this very welcome scheme, I must add.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Deputy, for raising this issue. One of the key pension reform measures I introduced from January of this year is to enhance state pension provision for people who have been caring for incapacitated dependents for 20 years or more. To date, 2,746 applications have been received from people requesting that a caring period is included on their social insurance contribution record. These are in respect of 2,113 individuals, as some people register for more than one caring period. 2,275 of these applications for a caring period have been allowed. The remaining applications are pending further information. There have been no disallowances to date. All of the people who have caring periods allowed, 821, have over 20 years and will thus qualify for long-term caring contributions, which can be used for state pension contributory purposes. Of these, 402 are over 66. 113 carers who were 66 prior to 2024 have had their entitlement to state pension contribution examined or their rate reviewed following their award, following their award of 1,040 or more long-term caring contributions. 47 carers previously disallowed were awarded the state pension contributory from the 1st of January 2024. 48 carers were awarded an increased rate with the inclusion of their caring contributions. 8 carers were already in receipt of the maximum rate of state pension contributory, and 10 individuals are pending a decision. In addition, 4 carers who have turned 66 since the start of 2024 have been awarded 1,040 or more long-term caring contributions, and they have been awarded the state pension contributory. So I hope the Deputy agrees that this scheme is key to recognising the role that long-term carers provide in society, and I really just want to thank the Department staff and the supportive groups such as Family Carers Ireland in developing the scheme and making it happen.
Minister, and I started out by welcoming the scheme and said it's very positive. And it's interesting the figures you've given now, 2,746 applications so far. So you might come back to me and tell you how many do you anticipate, in relation to this? What analysis has been done on that? And then of those 2,746, 2,113 were individuals. So that means that they register for more than a care period. Does that mean they've done 2 20-year periods? Have some of them done? I mean, the minimum is 20 years. So does that mean if they've done more that's 40 years? And then is there an appeal? I know there's been no refusal so far, and I welcome that, no disallowances, but there are some still pending. Is there a review built in? Is there an appeal mechanism if there is a refusal? And have you enough staff to capture what's happening here in terms of the amount of contributions, the amount of people, and an ongoing analysis of it?
Thank you, Deputy. Look, we have the applications that are in now. We opened it up for applications some time ago, so give people a chance. I can't say exactly how many are going to apply, but the good news is, as you said yourself, there's no disallowances to date. I don't have the specific details of the different carers that have put in their applications, but I can ask the officials if they can give me a further breakdown. I'm happy to supply that to you. But I think we all value the work of our carers, and my department will spend over 1.7 billion this year on our support payments to carers. And I suppose, in fairness, if you look at my record, improving support for our carers has been a key priority for me during my 3.5 years in the Department of Social Protection. In November, a €400 lump sum was paid to people receiving the Carers Support Grant. A Christmas double payment was paid to people in receipt of the Carers Allowance and the Carers Benefit. I've increased the domiciliary care allowance in successive budgets, and it's up to €340 a month. And it's important to say that the domiciliary care allowance is not means tested, and I've increased the weekly carers payment by €24 over the last 2 years. I just want to share that with you. Sorry, Cahill.
You have another opportunity.
Minister, you know, more information would be very helpful, because it is a very positive scheme. I've had a woman in my office who for the first time is applying for a payment in her own right, having minded somebody for over 20 years. She didn't get any payment. But the breakdown would be very important, because there are criteria, and if you've worked more than, I said, 16 or 18 hours a week, you're not entitled to it. Is there any flexibility around that? If you had a separate job for a number of hours, say a community employment scheme, there's a little bit more. I asked you, was there a review or an appeal mechanism in place? One of the recommendations of the Pension Commission was the establishment of a family carers register as well. Has progress been made in relation to that? So I can't praise this scheme enough, but I need more details to be able to explain it to the constituents that come in. What period of time is envisaged? You know, how many people are going to come forward? There must be some analysis undertaken by your department in relation to this, but particularly a review, particularly an appeal, and particularly flexibility. Finally, just the 20-year period. Why was that picked? Is there any flexibility around that? Is there a 15 years? Is there any flexibility at all, or a review on that? Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, just to say, we have the home caring up to 20 years, and this is for over 20 years. The home caring payment or credits that's there at the minute. So we wanted to expand on that, and that's where we came up with for the longer term carers. As with all schemes in my department, there's always an appeals mechanism, and the Family Carers Register has been set up, and we've worked very, very closely with Family Carers Ireland. And in fairness to them, they've done a lot of work in creating an awareness around this, because I would hate to see or to think there would be a position where people are not aware of this. So we're doing everything we can to make people aware of it, and we want them to put in their application. So as I said, there's been no refusals to date, and we'll continue to look at how we can improve upon it. And I think, I want to see the referendum on care pass here on the 8th of March. Because a yes vote will certainly strengthen my hand and the hand of every future minister when it comes to enhancing and improving the supports for care in this country into the future. So what I would say is we have achieved a lot. There's a lot more to do, but I believe that a yes vote for care means we go forward, not back, because we have achieved a lot, but there's more to do.
Thank you, Minister.
Thanks.
With impeccable timing, Deputy Moynihan, your question is next up.
Minister, the key issue with the renewal process for the PC, the card, is that it would be a smooth process and it would be straightforward enough for people to do with the minimum of hassle. Yet we're getting a range of different queries coming to our own offices in Macroom and throughout Cork, different issues. So can you give an outline of the efforts being made to make this renewal process as smooth as possible?
Thank you, Cahill, and thank you, Deputy Moynihan. Intro centres manage the frontline delivery of the standard authentication framework environment, which is the long version of SAFE registration. This includes registration for public service cards, issuing and renewal, and the processing of applications for personal public service numbers. Demand for these services remain high. The public service card is a physical token that a person's identity has been authenticated by the department. It means customers can access a range of public services easily without having to submit identity proofs to different public sector organisations. The user's identity is fully authenticated and it is issued so that they do not have to give the same information to multiple organisations. It was first introduced in 2011 and was initially rolled out to people getting social welfare payments. There are 3 intro centres and 11 branch offices manned by 26 staff in Cork City and County, offering either a walk-in or an appointment service, and we're not experiencing any delays or backlogs in Cork. Any urgent applications or renewals are processed without delay, while for non-urgent, an appointment is offered to applicants with a suitable time frame and before the expiration of their current public service card. Appointments can be made by email or telephone to any intro centre or branch office. After a customer has submitted an application along with the relevant documentation, the public service card will be posted within 7 to 10 working days. Anyone wishing to renew their card can do so online or at their local intro centre or branch office. Details of the intro centres and branch offices, how to make an appointment and the documents required for the appointment are all available on gov.ie. In Cork City and County, there has been 7,310 public service card applications, first and renewals for the period the 1st of the 4th 2024 to the 15th of February 2024. My department currently provides an online public service card renewal service which includes free travel cards for customers who have a verified mygov.ie or mygov.id account. Since the service was launched, over 134,000 customers have renewed their card online, with some 70,000 renewals completed in 2023.
Deputy.
Thank you, Minister. The local offices are very helpful in getting the card renewed, and they do facilitate the appointments with people. What we're seeing is that people are getting their letter 3 months out in advance, notifying them of the card coming due for renewal, but that they can't make an appointment for another 2 months, that they won't be facilitated with an appointment until the card is within a number of weeks of renewal. And what it means that's concerning for people, that they want to know that they can get their card renewed. So it's only in the last number of weeks, and then there's the pressure is on, because if you don't get the card renewed on time, concerns about the free travel, for example. So facing towards the online option, and that's good for a lot of people. But then some people are really hitting this wall with the photograph on doing the online and having the correct aspect ratio on the photograph. It's not, people feel ambushed on it, how are you going to know the type of photograph? And you're getting frustrated constantly loading it again and again. And in the end, you end up having to go over to the local office and to ask for an appointment.
We're slipping well over time here. Minister.
Thank you, Cahir. Well, the application, once the application process is completed, the card will be posted within 7 to 10 working days. So if they're getting the appointment well in advance of, before the card expires, we should be okay there. The issue around the photograph, that's something now I'll have to take up with my officials, which I will do, because we want to streamline this. We want people to be able to go online, upload the photograph, and then you want to know that it's the right photograph or it's taken it, because sometimes if it doesn't take it, then you're in bother as well. So I'll certainly raise that with my officials regarding the issue of the photograph. As I said, we're not aware of any delays, but if there's any specific instances or cases that you want to bring to my attention, I'm happy to follow them up, and if there's a problem, well, we'll find out what it is and we'll deal with it. But generally speaking, this system is a good system, and the PSC card it's a great job, it really is.
Deputy.
Thank you, Minister. Having a smooth and reliable process for the renewal is so important. And when people are getting their letter 3 months out, they expect to be able to either do it online or to be able to access the office locally. Now, they are struggling to get appointments until they're much nearer the date. And that's from what we can understand, because of a large number of people. Your card would have been introduced around 10, 11 years ago, so you have a large block of people coming towards a renewal at around about the same time. But that's a predictable load. So there should be measures in place to deal with that. And right, when you do get the renewal done, the card is issued quite quickly, and that's the positive. But it's getting to that renewal stage is where people have raised the issue with us. For example, that issue with the photograph, but also having to wait to get an appointment, even though they would have been notified 3 months in advance. It's a huge concern, particularly around the free travel. People really value the free travel, and when it's available to them, they'll use it. But without the card, that they will be stopped on the free travel.
Minister, to conclude on this.
Okay, thank you, Deputy. And I suppose, yeah, I take your point. They get the notice 3 months in advance, which is good, and at least they're getting the notification that their card is due to expire. The card was introduced first in 2011, and there were a lot of first-time applications, probably around 2012, 2013, 2014. A lot of people started to take up the offer of or use the public service card. So there's a good few extra, obviously, for renewal at this point in time. There was a good, since the service was launched, over 134,000 have renewed their card online. Some 70,000 renewals were completed in 2023. So that's a fair few, all right. And there'll be more again in 2024. And as I said, as long as they get the card in time, and I fully understand the free travel pass, they want to make sure they have it. We did speak with the regional managers in Cork, and they didn't say that there were any delays, but I'll raise your concerns with my officials, and just to make sure there's no delays there.
Thank you, Minister. Bogomid Oireachtas Kesh Quaga Shea and Anna Montauk Rory O'Murkel.
Guramaigad Cahirlock. Minister, could you provide an update on the establishment of an interdepartmental working group with the Department of Health to examine and review the system of means testing for carer payments and related schemes? Look, we've dealt with this issue previously in relation to and we all know the issues around the threshold. So I suppose anything that can be done from a point of view of trying to introduce some element of flexibility into the system and something that works and benefits those families and people doing a great amount of work for the state and for their own family.
Thank you, Deputy. The main income supports to carers provided by my department are the carers allowance, the carers benefit, the domiciliary care allowance and the carer support grant. Spending on these payments is expected to amount to over 1.7 billion this year. Since my appointment as Minister, I have made a number of improvements in the social welfare system to enhance the support available to our carers. These have included an increase of €150 to annual carer support grant, bringing it to €1,850, the highest level since its introduction. The weekly rates of carers allowance and carers benefit have increased by €29 over the last 3 budgets. Specifically with regard to carers allowance, I am the first Minister since 2007 to make changes to the means test. In June 2022, the income disregards were increased from €332.50 to €350 for a single person, and from €665 to €750 for carers with a spouse or a partner. As part of Budget 2024, the weekly income disregard will be further increased from €350 to €450 for a single person, and from €750 to €900 for carers with a spouse or partner. Notwithstanding these substantial improvements made to the payments under my remit, as part of Budget 2024, I announced my intention to establish an interdepartmental working group with the Department of Health to examine and review the system of means test for carers payment. My officials are engaging with their counterparts in the Department of Health to progress the issue, and I expect the group to report back to me later this year. The work of the group will be informed by a broader review of means testing currently underway in my department, which is targeted for completion by Q1 of 2024, with a report to be published shortly afterwards. The work of the interdepartmental group will also be considered within the context of review of the National Carers Strategy led by the Department of Health. I trust this clarifies the matter.
Obviously here I think we all welcome the increase in payments, we all welcome the increase in thresholds, but we also do understand that there still are a significant amount of people who are not unnecessarily on huge monies that can be impacted detrimentally in relation to where the thresholds are at this point in time, and I suppose that's the whole point for why you are looking at the interdepartmental working group, and I understand when people hear those sort of terms they think it's an excuse to do nothing. But I have no doubt that there will be follow-through. Did I catch it correct? Obviously, you're looking at means testing in relation to your entire department, and you think that report will be finished Q1 of 2024, was it? All right. And I suppose if you can give any sort of update in relation to that, you know what I mean? I suppose the timeline on when you're saying later in the year, if we could have some sort of notion in relation to when you think roughly. As I said, the report back from this interdepartmental working group.
Minister.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I have increased the means test for carers, and I've increased that's the capital allowance. I've increased the income thresholds. And from June now, a couple can earn up to €900 per week and have 50,000 in savings, and they still qualify for the full carers allowance payment. But the reality is, it doesn't matter where I draw that line, there's going to be some people who fall the other side of it. And I don't want to see people left behind. I know women who have given up their job to care for a child with disabilities, and because their partner works, they don't qualify for any payment. That's not right. The care they provide should be recognised, and that is being recognised in terms of the pension. That I have, we recognise the pension for long-term carers. But the reason I've set up this interdepartmental group with the Department of Health is to examine the means test entirely. You know that social welfare system is to keep you out of poverty and provide you with a basic income. Somebody going to have to grasp the nettle here and pay carers for what they do. And they make a huge contribution when you have somebody with a disability where they cannot work. So the question is, and that's why it was my idea to set up this interdepartmental group, because it's not until you set everybody round the table that we're going to find a way forward here.
Minister,
and that's also why I feel it's very important that we vote yes in this referendum, because it clearly states, but what we want to do is we want to strive to support carers. And the way I see it is, what we have got, we hold, and we move forward and build on more supports for carers. And that's why I think it's important that we do vote yes.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy.
Minister, no, I think it's very positive, first of all, that the interdepartmental working group is going to happen. And in fairness, I think you put it better than I'm going to put it in relation to mothers and fathers who are doing not only their family but a state a huge level of service. We've all met them. It's people who have been forced to change the nature of their lives because of the huge piece of work they have to do in relation to caring for family members that have huge, complex and additional needs. So that does need to be recognised, and I do welcome, as I say, those moves that have been made, and I suppose it's just a case of we make sure, I suppose, we keep our eye on the goal and on the target, and we ensure that we can actually deliver we can deliver something that works, a system that works. And I get it, wherever you put the threshold there will be a difficulty, but I think we have to look at a threshold that just allows more people not to be impacted detrimentally. And just, as I say, as soon as we can do this piece of work in relation to having this group up and running, and then it can report back and then you can action it, I think we would all welcome that as soon as possible. And here, these are the means by which we can actually deliver for carers.
Minister, to conclude, please. Sorry, Minister.
Oh.
Deputy McAuliffe, very brief.
Yeah, just Minister, I just would encourage you in what you just said to the House to work with your government colleagues on this issue, and it's in particular for those people who applied for carers maybe several years ago, maybe in some cases up to a decade, who over the course of that decade their partner might have had an increase in their salary, and many of those people don't understand that it's a means-tested payment, and inadvertently find themselves in a situation where they're beyond that that and are become very concerned and worried about it. We need to move beyond the idea that caring for somebody is a means tested payment. There should be a payment for caring. I'd encourage you to work with your government colleagues, and I'm happy to work with you on that from the Fianna Fáil perspective.
Ministers.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, as I said, the interdepartmental group has been set up, and this has been like this isn't a new idea that people should work together. They should work together, but sometimes, you know, we get into departments and you know, we look after what's specific to our areas, when in actual fact you need to take a cross-government, a much broader approach to this. Now, I've worked very hard with the carers group, the Carers Association, and they've been extremely helpful on this. So a lot has happened, but there's more has to be done. And I cannot pay a carer for the work they do. That would not be, it would be impossible. But I think the Department of Health has a role here. So we all have to sit down and we have to work a pathway forward. And that's why I think that this referendum is so important, that we are able to put into our constitution that we recognise and strive to support care in our country. And I think that's an important statement that this government is making in terms of care in society.
Thank you, Minister. We move next to question 57, Deputy Bernard Durkin.
Cancora. This question draws attention again, similar to the last question, draws attention to the fact that in cases of allowances, and of course we know that all allowances are means tested, but some more than others, when they are stopped for whatever reason, can cause a serious negative impact on the applicant. And I'm trying to suggest that maybe if a more benign approach was taken to ensure that when such issues go to appeal, that there's something in hand to ensure that hardship is not suffered by the family affected.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy, for raising this. I just want to reassure the deputies that there is no tendency to refuse applications for carers allowance or disability allowance in my department. In fact, the majority of claims are granted at first decision. About 10% of all claims decisions are appealed. Deciding officers are required under legislation to act independently and to make decisions in a fair and impartial manner and in accordance with criteria set in the legislation for the relevant scheme. Ongoing training and guidance is provided to ensure that deciding officers apply these criteria correctly. Where claims are disallowed or allowed at a rate other than the maximum rate, the carer is given an explanation of the basis for the decision in writing. Carers are advised of their right of review and appeal of the decision. The Department has recently started to include the report of its medical assessors in the communication sent to customers. This is to assist them in understanding why the claim may have been disallowed, and so that they are fully informed in making an appeal if they wish to do so. If they make an appeal, this is considered by the Social Welfare Appeals Office, which is required under statute to act independently in its decision making. In practice, many appeals received tend to include significant additional information that was not available to the deciding officer at the time the claim was first considered. All appeals are therefore referred back to the Department in the first instance so that the original decision can be reviewed. About half of all cases where the decision is reversed, they are reversed by the Department itself on the basis of this new information. I would therefore encourage all people to provide as much information as possible with their claim, and I can assure them that the Department will take full account of the information provided and will not disallow the claim unless there are good grounds to do so.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Durkin.
Thank you, Minister, for your detailed reply. Yeah, there are glitches, though, that happen from time to time. And those are usually around situations where there's an earner that comes into the household or leaves the household intermittently. And that may then cause a situation whereby, as I had to deal with over Christmas, where a household may have no money at all and no way of getting money. And the supplementary welfare system is supposed to be there to deal with that. But it isn't always possible there either, depending on the time and place and whether holidays or public holidays or whatever are on, the situation can occur. And the last point I want to make on that is this, that it was said to me in the course of discussion that the applicant in question had a lot of money due to them and we're going to get it shortly from child benefit. That's not an answer to the question, though. Child benefit is a different payment altogether that has a different role, it addresses a different issue, and one payment shouldn't be held up against another in order to say, well, they have enough to proceed.
Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Durkan. And I have to say, you probably know the social welfare system more than maybe many of us in this House. You certainly have a great understanding of it and a great appreciation for the many varied circumstances and difficult circumstances that people find themselves in, and I know that you regularly, discuss this with me. I'd be happy to get the specific case and look at it. Like if somebody said you can't have this payment because you're due a payment from a back payment, that seems to me it's assuming this payment is coming. I'll have to check that specific case, and I'm very happy to check it out, Deputy, because the one thing we don't want to do is deprive somebody of their payment, and that's something that I'm very committed to. Carers do a wonderful job, and the level of care that some people provide, as we know, is 24/7. For others, it might not be quite as demanding, but we do want to support them and we want to help them, and I'm happy to take up the case specifically on your behalf.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy.
I'll come back to it. No, I'm fine. I'm happy with that. Thank you.
58. Deputy Paddy O'Sullivan, please.
Cion Corla. Minister, I'd like to ask you for an update about the rollout of the Hot School Meals programme in Cork East.
I'm grouping these, yeah. I have a good few here now. I'm grouping 58, 63, 65, 75, 76 and 80. So I'm hoping, I'll get started now. There's a good few. We'll have a good answer here. To ask the Minister for Social... Oh, sorry, wait a minute, I'll get the answer. There's a lot of questions. The objective of the school meals programme is to provide regular, nutritious food to children to support them in taking full advantage of the education provided to them. The programme is an important component of policies to encourage school attendance and extra educational achievement. It is my overriding ambition that every child born today will be able to benefit from a hot school meal by the time they start school. Following the expansion of the programme in recent years, some 2,600 schools and organisations covering 443,000 children are now eligible for funding. This is a very positive outcome, considering that the scheme involved just 30 schools at pilot stage when I started expanding it. I'm committed to continuing to expand the Hot School Meals programme and building further on the significant extension of the programme that has taken place in recent years. The rollout of the Hot School Meals to all remaining DEIS primary and special schools began in September 2023. However, I am committed to further expanding the Hot School Meals programme. All remaining primary schools were contacted last year and requested to submit an expression of interest form if their school is interested in commencing the provision of hot school meals. Expressions of interest were received from over 900 primary schools in respect of 150,000 children. These schools have now been invited to participate in the Hot School Meals programme from April of 2024. If all of these schools go on to participate, this would result in total participation in the Hot School Meal scheme of some 1,600 schools and 267,000 children. A number of schools have been in touch with me to say that they would like to exercise their option to participate. There will also be an opportunity for all other primary schools who have subsequently expressed an interest to do so formally later this year, which will increase the numbers further. Last year, I published an independent evaluation of the School Meals programme, which sets out the positive impact the programme is having in terms of children's education and well-being. The key findings were as follows. There is an overwhelming consensus among all participants in the evaluation that the programme is effective and indicates strong support for its extension. Overall, parents were very supportive of the programme. Most parents suggested that their child had an improved attitude towards food, highlighting the benefits of the programme in encouraging healthy eating. The responses of students were, and they praised the taste and the nutritional quality of the food. Students were over twice as likely to express positive rather than negative feelings towards the programme. Data from principals showed that their views of the nutritional values, the quality and the portion size of the meals provided were favourable. Most principals indicated that the programme improved physical health, attendance and performance. In March 2021, my department published the Hot School Meals Pilot Project report, having carried out a pilot project across the country. This research was carried out to understand the experience of being involved in the pilot project from the perspective of parents, teachers, principals and food suppliers. The key findings were as follows. Overall, hot meals rated highly in terms of quality, choice, portion sizes, dietary requirements and nutritional value. The vast majority of the combined total of parents, teachers and principals rated each of these aspects positively, with around a third giving a rating of excellent. 66% of teachers said the pilot project had a positive impact on children's diet, while over half said it positively impacted behaviour, attentiveness and psychological well-being. 80% of parents, teachers, SNAs, principals rated the nutritional value of the food as excellent or good, and overall the hot meals rated highly in terms of quality, choice, portion sizes, dietary requirements and nutritional value, over a third giving a rating of excellent for each category. Over a third of parents said that the Hot Meals pilot project had a very positive impact on their child's attendance at school, physical health and psychological well-being, while the majority of parents said the pilot project had a positive impact in each of these three areas. Overall, suppliers felt that the schools were very satisfied with the quality of the food provided. Most actively sought feedback on the meals from schools to help them improve and refine their menus, and suppliers felt that by the time the schools closed they had strong menus with plenty of choice available. The nutritional standards for school meals were developed by a working group led by the Health and Wellbeing Programme in the Department of Health, in consultation with Safe Food and the Healthy Eating and Active Living Programme in the Health Service Executive. Expenditure on unhealthy food items is deducted from the following year's funding allocation. In addition, the department has undertaken an on-site inspection programme since 2012 to ensure that the schemes, it says 2022, to ensure that the scheme rules are being adhered to. Schools are responsible for choosing their own meals supplier on the open market in a fair and transparent manner in accordance with public procurement rules under tender documentation as stipulated by the school's procurement unit. The menu is to accommodate those with food intolerances and allergies, from lactose-free to vegetarian to gluten-free, for example. Finally, the deputies have asked specifically about Cork and Kerry. In 2022 to 2023, 28 schools in Cork were operating the Hot School Meal Scheme, benefiting 6,988 pupils at a cost of €3.6 million to 27,664. In 2023 to 2024, 36 schools are operating the Hot Meal Scheme, benefiting 7,856 pupils at a cost of €4.5 million. In County Kerry this year to date, a total of 34 schools are currently in receipt of the Hot Meal Schemes, benefiting 3,854 pupils at a cost of €2.1 million. A list of schools in counties Cork and Kerry currently in the Hot School Meal Scheme in 2023 to 2024 is contained in the tabular statement that will be made available with this reply, and I hope that clarifies the matter. Thank you.
It certainly does. Deputy O'Sullivan.
Thanks, Minister. And look, I suppose it'll be interesting just to see that response, as you said, in the tabular form. I know that Deputy O'Connor sends his apologies tonight, but in particular he does have an interest in the towns of Youghal, Killa, Castlemartyr and in East Cork in general. I suppose just following on from your response, I taught in Fermoy for 12 years, which you know, the school I taught in did have DESH status, and I can safely say that a very big proportion of the students that did attend school probably only got their only healthy meal when they came to school. We ran a programme there for many years, and staff and management would tell you that at the school, that for many kids it was their only meal, nutritious meal that they got, so that was great to see it being enhanced, progressed. There's a time I would love to see it in every school, and in particular I know that you mentioned there that there will be a possibility for schools to make a further application this year that missed out last year. But if there was any appeal process or even any way of getting in at this very late stage for April's allocation, you might just inform us as well. Thank you.
Deputy Donegal.
Thanks for that very comprehensive answer. I got most of it, but I'm sitting next to Deputy O'Rourke, so I don't necessarily get all of it. In any event, the programme is, look, this is an area that we would have seen as a vitally important priority, and it's a real good news story that that it continues to be expanded. I suppose in the longer run, similar to Deputy O'Sullivan, I would like to see it expanded out to all schools. I think we're a long way behind. In fairness to the Department and to the Minister, has done good work in this area, and the preceding Minister as well. But we're a long way behind European comparators. Like, I mean, it is the norm in most European countries that, particularly at post-primary, that you get your hot school meal and so on. So I suppose what I'm looking to know is, obviously not everything can be done in a single year, but I suppose, is that the long-term ambition of the Minister? And I suppose, what is the trajectory? How are we going to get to that stage? How many years does the Minister foresee it taking until we get to the stage where you can have a good quality hot school meal? And look, I have a child myself who benefits from the scheme, and the quality is good, in fairness, and it's highly satisfactory. But what's the timescale, I suppose, or the trajectory to get it right across the board?
Deputy Alan Dillon.
Ken Corla, and again, thank you, Minister, for your response in relation to the Hot Schools Meals programme, and just compliment yourself in relation to its expansion. Back in 2019, there was only 30 schools involved in a small pilot, and since you've taken the ministerial position in June of 2020, we've over 1,600 schools. So I think we're making real progress on this. And I also welcome last December, there was over 34 schools in Mayo who were added to the Hot School Meals programme, and that's really important. But tonight I'd also like to bring to your attention two schools within my local area, one being Castlebar Primary School and St Joseph's National School in Derrywash, and they're anxious to be included in the programme. Like many others, and like other deputies, I would be anxious to see when the expression of interest will reopen in 2024, because a lot of schools have contacted us and know the benefits of this, certainly in relation to school attendance and extra educational achievement. And I think that is testament to this government in relation to the budgetary allocation, but also the fact that this government wants to see all schools participating by 2030.
Deputy Mark O'Cahasick, and then Deputy Brendan Griffin, and then finally Deputy Paul McAuliffe.
Thank you, Ciarán Comhairle. Minister, all politics, as you know, is local. This couldn't be more local. My kitchen table yesterday morning was a disaster. Everything was going well. I had the sandwiches made and all out, and then somebody spotted a little bit of mould on the crust. I could have cut it off if I'd copped it first, but sure, that was it. They were in the bin then. I had to get up to Centra and buy the chicken rolls, and that was £7 lost on the day. So I suppose I'm self-motivated. Look, my question that I put here was around that business of the schools that missed out on the April 2024 deadline. Like Donegal, Deputy O'Leary, I want to see this in all schools. I've always been of the opinion, and it's long been Green Party policy, when the state has them, we should feed them. It has obviously huge impact in areas of disadvantage. It's right and proper that we focus on those schools first, but I do want to see every school in the land having the availability of a hot school meal, and I was putting that question about when the next round that schools will be able to apply.
Griffin.
Thanks, Ciarán Comhairle, and could I just concur with previous speakers as well, and thank you, Minister, for your work on this. No, not the mouldy bread. I think that's how they discovered penicillin, but there might be some upsides to it. The big pharma in Waterford might develop a new drug. But I do want to thank you, Minister, for being so proactive in this regard. And I was just doing the mathematics there. I'm not a mathematician, but €2.1 million servicing 34 schools in Kerry, where 3,854 children are benefiting. You break it down, and it works out at roughly about €15 per week per child, and that is a very small amount in the context of what the state spends, but it's hugely significant. The results are amazing. If you can find the finance anywhere at all, the expansion to other schools in Kerry and other schools throughout the country, it would be money extremely well spent and well invested in the future. Thank you.
Deputy McAuliffe.
Thanks, Minister. Never mind about the mouldy bread. We often get mouldy answers in here, but you were right, it was a good answer. And that is because it's a good policy and a very welcome one. And I've seen it in practice in schools, as many deputies have here, and it is literally transforming. Minister, I also like the universality element of it, because it's not all disadvantaged children do not always go to DESH schools, and I think it's important that we have it rolled out, and it prevents stigma and all of those other things. There is one suggestion that's been brought to me though, Minister, and that is that there will be many children in DESH schools that are in receipt of this in 6th class, and when they go on to primary school, they won't necessarily be, even in schools where there's a very high level of concentration of disadvantage in DESH secondary schools. And I suppose every time I ask you to spend money, you reasonably tell me that there are limits in what you can do. But in terms of the order of priority, I would ask you to give some consideration to that argument that a child in a DESH primary school that goes on to a DESH secondary school doesn't fundamentally come from a different home just because they move on, and it might be something to consider, although, as I say, I don't speak against the desire to have a universal approach.
Minister, please.
Thank you, and I just want to thank all the deputies for their contributions. There's not too many measures that are universally popular in this House, but I think the hot school meals is certainly one example. When I came into the department, there were 30 schools getting hot meals, and when the expansion happens in April, we'll have over 1,600 primary schools all receiving hot meals. You know, I am a firm believer you can't beat the old hot dinner in the middle of the day. And I have to say, I was in Artane last year and we saw the children getting their hot meals. They were sitting around the tables and they were chatting away, and they had the lasagna and the shepherd's pie, and they had chicken curry as well, I think it was. And they were all sitting around the table. And I have to say one thing, it was a great leveller because everybody got the same. And I'm sure for those of us that have made lunches many, many times, I'd love to have had that when I had two young girls going to school, because despite my best attempts, there was blue moulded bread by the end of the week, I can assure you, and soggy sandwiches, and despite also best efforts to sneak crisps in, even though it was a healthy eating school, to try and entice them to eat it. You got it back, return to sender, and I'm delighted that there's six gentlemen here all asking about this hot school meals, and
making sandwiches as well.
Yeah, and making sandwiches. It was a slightly different when I was doing it, because it was mommy got the blame for the lunches and got the job as well. But in all fairness, parents have enough to worry about. They're running out the door, they're going to work in the morning, and when they know that the child's going to get a good staple meal in the middle of the day, I think that's a huge weight off their mind. And we're all busy people, and it's great that we did the evaluation last year, and teachers in the school were overwhelmingly in favour of expanding it. And can I just say that if you didn't get in on this round, I'm going to be opening it up again later in the year, so the schools can apply to get in for the next round. There's about 3,000 primary schools altogether. We'll have 1,600 if they all take up the offer in April, and then we'll work our way through the rest of them as quickly as possible. It was planned, it'll be rolled out up until 2030. I want to speed that up because it's a good scheme, and it's important that we do it for the children that are going to school today. Thanks.
Well done, Minister. Can we move to question 59, Deputy Brendan Griffin?
Thank you, Minister, again for your comprehensive response there. And this is in relation to the expansion of the child benefit for over 18s in full-time education scheme. Could you outline the changes to the House, and in particular maybe address the what the technical response will be in relation to people who turn 18 before the 1st of May of this year, please? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. Minister.
Thank you. And I'm proposing Cancora to take three questions here together. It's question number there's 7851, 7785 and 7585 together. So child benefit is a universal monthly payment made to families with children up to the age of 16 years. Currently, the payment continues to be paid in respect of children until their 18th birthday, where they are in full-time education or have a disability. In Budget 2024, the Government decided to extend the payment of child benefit to 18-year-olds who are in full-time education or have a disability. This was one of my key priorities in the budget. With many children now starting primary school at age 5, together with the increase in pupils doing transition year, there's been an increase in the number of 18-year-olds still in secondary education. And I believe the extension of child benefit to 18-year-olds in full-time education is a long-term change for the better and will support families across Ireland into the future. There is a significant change to the child benefit scheme. It requires technical and operational changes before implementation. We had originally provided that the change would take effect from September of this year. However, I'm very pleased that we are now able to bring this important change in from an earlier date, and I have secured government approval to do that. And as a result, the measure will be brought in from the 1st of May. In the region of 60,000 children are expected to benefit from this measure annually. The additional estimated cost of bringing the commencement date forward to May is €21.6 million. In the case of a child who turned 18 after May 2023 and who is still in full-time education, child benefit will be payable again from May 2024 up until their 19th birthday or until they leave full-time education, whichever is sooner. And that includes maybe their first year in university. As the measure comes into effect from the 1st of May, where a child turns 18 in the meantime, there will be no payment for any intervening period up to May 2024, which is the usual approach for changes to the social welfare system that take effect from a future date. The Department will be in contact with these recipients of child benefit over the coming months to advise the next steps. So just to clarify it again, if you're in full-time education, whether it's secondary school or college, you will get the payment until you reach age 19, and that's provided you can that you can prove that you're in full-time education. If you get the form signed in September, then say if you finish secondary school in June and you're going to college in September, if you get the form signed when you go to college in September to say that you're still in either secondary school or in college, the payment will commence in September, and then you'll get backdated for the couple of months in the intervening months. And that's always been the case with child benefit, because you know that you have to get it certified that your children's in full-time education. And I know some people have contacted me and said, well, I'm going to miss out because my child was 18 in January and then they won't get the payment till May. But I suppose if I hadn't done this, nobody would have benefited. So it would end at age 18, and if I'd left it to September, less people would have benefited. So in bringing it to May, the good news is that every family will benefit from May onwards. It's something, of course, we all love to do these things sooner, but this is a long-term change for the better. And I know that when I announced it last year in the budget, there were many disappointed because they thought it was coming in straight away. But now I've been able to bring it forward to May, so I think that's
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Griffin.
Yeah, thanks very much, Minister. It's very positive news, and I commend you on your efforts to ensure that the scheme kicks in on the 1st of May. It's very, very welcome indeed, and I appreciate the clarification given tonight on a few aspects of it. And just looking at doing the sums here, like it's for the full 12 months for anyone who benefits. It's €1,680. It's a significant amount of money, and I think also as well it's very pertinent that this would be happening now, because so many people are starting school now at the age of 5 and doing the Leaving Cert at the age of 18 and beyond, whereas previously maybe children might have started, a lot of children would have started, certainly in my time, would have started at 4. So that's something as well that's relevant. So I really appreciate, on behalf of my constituents, Minister, the efforts you've made. I acknowledge that the extra 0.6 million that you found in the budget as well to ensure that it kicks in on the 1st of May. And look, it's one of these very progressive things that you're after achieving here, and I want to acknowledge it. And I know that it will be appreciated by people around the country, because particularly that leaving cert year, first year in college, is a very expensive year for families. So this money will come in very useful. Thank you, Minister.
Minister.
Thank you. And yes, indeed, Deputy, and this is something that I know you are very keen that I would improve upon. Child benefit is one of the few tools at my disposal that I can actually use to support working families. You know, as part of recent budgets, I prioritise the double payments on the lump sum payment on child benefit. And as you said, children, they're starting school later now. Most children don't start now until they're 5. And then they do transition year, so it's well into they're well into 18 before they're finished. And indeed, I have to say, I was talking to a woman the other day, and she just said to me that she uses the child benefit payment to pay for the grinds for her daughter for the leaving cert, and she was absolutely delighted with the change. And she's a working mother, and like most mothers, I could say, and I'm delighted that we were able to give her that bit of help, and that's important too. This is, as I said, we're going to have it ready for May, and I'm glad to be able to do that. So thank you.
Deputy. Just one last clarification. I quoted the figure of 1,680 per annum. I assume, Minister, as well, in the event of there being bonus payments and all of that, the 18-year-olds will benefit from those payments as well, should they arise at any particular point, the same as every other recipient of the scheme. Is that correct? Minister? Thank
you. Yes, if you're in payment, you will benefit from any of the double payments that we had on child benefit last year once you were in payment. So it's €140 per month and per child, and it is a welcome support to get. I know myself that the children's allowance, or the child benefit, I'm still calling it the old name sometimes, the child benefit is something that it covers many's a bill, and it covers many's a cost that comes into the house. Look, it's I was just saying, whether you're kitting out the kids for school, it doesn't matter whether they're 17 or 18, it'll still cost the same amount of money to buy the uniforms and such things when you're getting them back into school in September or whatever. So thank you.
Minister, I was just hoping that you might be able to provide an update with respect to the Green Paper on disability that was drafted by your department. Gormagat.
Sure.
Gormagat, and thank you, Deputy, for raising this matter. The Government committed, as part of the Roadmap for Social Inclusion, to develop and consult on proposals to restructure long-term disability payments and to simplify the system. The proposals developed are set out in the Green Paper on disability reform. The intention in proposing reforms to the structure of long-term payments is twofold. First, to better insulate disabled people who cannot work from poverty by providing higher rates of payment. Second, to encourage and support higher levels of employment for people with disabilities by tailoring the provision of employment supports to suit people's capabilities. This is not a cost-cutting measure. In fact, many people will see significant increases to their payment of up to €45 per week, and any engagement with employment services will be on a voluntary basis. The Green Paper is a consultation document. No final decisions have been made. The paper's purpose is to invite discussion, debate and suggestions. We want to hear from as many disabled people and their representatives as possible. My officials held a stakeholder event in October and 4 public consultation events in November last year. My department has also been holding bilateral meetings with disabled persons, organisations and disability groups. I have extended the closing date for the public consultation until the 15th of March this year, and this was in response to requests for an extension to allow individuals, disabled persons organisations and disability groups time to consider their submissions. People can make a submission in writing or by video, and I encourage everybody with an interest in improving the lives of people with disabilities to engage in the consultation process. I am open to all ideas and suggestions.
Gavin Bucas leis an Ara Minister, I very much thank you for your response on this important matter, and I know that you have said on many occasions that this paper was just a proposal and a means to get that very much needed consultation and conversation going. I sought this update from you today as I did attend a consultation forum with the Clare Leader Forum. And I suppose a number of concerns were raised at that forum, and I suppose it was a resounding no from all in attendance so far. Maybe it's a case that they don't have enough information about exactly how this will be rolled out, but they take real issue with the proposal for a number of reasons, and one namely was the categorisation of disabilities. They felt that this might target them in some way, and that they will have to prove their level of disability on an ongoing basis. And then I suppose just the need for that to be medically assessed raised major concerns, as they fear that they will be undoubtedly facing further waiting lists and delays in that process.
Minister.
Okay, thank you, Deputy. And can I just say that this Green Paper is for consultation only. Everything is up for discussion. No decisions have been made other than the payment as it currently stands will not reduce. We will take on board all the submissions we have received, and already I'm getting requests to further extend the consultation period, and I will give consideration to that as well, because there were some people felt that they should get longer to consider it and make their submissions. And you know, this is you know, it's an inclusive process, and I want to hear all the views. You know, people have made comparison with the UK, and can I just say that the UK was very obviously a cost-cutting exercise. What this Green Paper is proposing will cost another €130 million per year. It is not a cost-saving exercise. So we will go through all the submissions, and can I just say that if there are clear red lines for people and we need to go back to the drawing board, that is what we will do.
Deputy Wynne.
It's really appreciated, a lot of your comments there, because I think there are just a few red flags in relation to what the Green Paper is setting out, and maybe there is a bit of confusion there, as I've mentioned already, but you've given reassurance there that all submissions will be considered, and I think it's very promising that you have already extended the deadline twice and are considering extending it further. I think it is important to mention, and I know it's not in your remit or in your department, but I think just the fact that the ratification of the optional protocol has not happened has added, I suppose, anguish to the situation for people with disabilities. And then in Ireland, only 1 out of 3 persons with disabilities has a job, one of the lowest shares in Europe and the OECD, which I know you are aware of. And so I will just finally say that, look, there are major issues that have been expressed to myself as the representative in Clare, and I hope that this government will be able to make meaningful strides to provide greater employment opportunities for people with disabilities. But as it stands, this proposal may not be the way to go.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Deputy. And you know, in case there's any doubt out there, we will go through, as I said earlier, we will go through all the submissions. And if there are clear red lines and people are you know, it comes through loud and clear that this is not what is wanted, we will go back to the drawing board. And I can only say this was an opportunity to have a discussion to see how we can improve the situation for people with disabilities. And we have to accept that there are different levels of disability. In fact, some people may be able to do a little bit of work, some people can never work. And it's how we can target the resources at those who need it most, and that they get an increased payment, and nobody will lose out on this. But anyway, I think it's important that we have these discussions, and I'm very open to hearing the views of the various different groups And like all consultations, we do take on board what they're saying, because the purpose of this department is here to help people. It's not to put obstacles in their way.
Question 63, Deputy Marker Cossack. This is the final question.
I'm grouped with question 96 here, or rather it's question 96 that I'm putting, which has quite a different emphasis from question 61 in the name of Deputy Paul Murphy. In my question, I'm asking about the expansion to the free travel scheme, which came to pass this July, whether it would be possible to include bike share schemes, either regular bikes or e-bike schemes within that free travel. I'll understand if the Minister's answer probably maybe goes in a different direction, and perhaps we'll tease out the individual issues afterwards.
Minister.
Thank you, Deputy, and thank you, Can Corla. And I'm taking questions 61 and 96 together. The free travel scheme provides free travel on the main public and private transport services for those eligible under the scheme, and there are over 1 million people with direct eligibility. The estimated expenditure on the free travel in 2024 is €104 million. The objective of the free travel scheme is to ensure older people and people with disabilities remain active within their community. Extending the eligibility of the free travel scheme to include children would change this objective and radically change the nature of the scheme. In Budget 2024, I expanded the free travel scheme to provide a free travel pass to people who are medically certified as not fit to drive. People qualifying under this expansion will have no requirement to be in receipt of a social welfare payment, but they must meet the other qualifying criteria. The implementation date for the measure is July 2024. As part of the budget, my colleague, the Minister for Education, announced a significant €92 million increase in funding for school transport services. And this is to provide for the additional demands for pupils with special education needs on school transport services and increased bus contractor running costs. This funding also allows for the continuation of the reduced school transport fees for the 2024-2025 school year, and this will continue to reduce the cost of sending children to schools and increase the number of pupils that will avail of the school transport service. In addition, I am aware that many operators have reduced fares for children, and in some cases children under 5 years of age can currently travel free of charge. Any further expansion of the free travel scheme proposed by the deputies and in excess of the measures announced in Budget 2024 would require additional funding for the free travel scheme and would have to be considered in the context of overall budgetary negotiations.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Cossack will have to finish with this.
Deputy Murphy's question had quite a different thrust from my own. Mine was focusing in on as I said, bike share schemes and e-bike schemes. I actually agree with the Minister's position in relation to the other question. That change in terms of eligibility, which will come into force in July, that was really welcome and was responding to some of the recommendations from the Joint Oireachtas Committee. And I know people within Epilepsy Ireland in particular are very, very grateful for that change. But just to, I suppose, explain why it is that I think this could be important and a very, very low-cost intervention is, for example, if you get off the 360 bus at Kilbarry in Waterford and you want to get across to SETU, it's quite a walk, but there's a bike share scheme right there. If you are precluded from driving, let's say, through epilepsy or whatever it is, well, that's a way that you could get from Tramore to your university place quite easily. Similarly, if you climb off the train in Houston, the Dublin bikes are right there. It's a bike share scheme that will give you options to get to exactly where you need to go, and I think for very, very low cost. I think this would cost buttons, Minister, and might benefit a relatively small number of people.
Thank you,
but
Deputy.
for that small number of people, it'll be deeply felt.
Deputy Gould, you have a brief supplementary.
Minister, I would ask you to seriously look at expanding the scheme in relation to free buses. We have incidents now in Cork where people in Glenville, Watergrass Hill, or Ballyvolane, because of the limited capacity of it. So it needs to be extended and more. Like, I know the Minister was looking at extending the scheme, but I would certainly say that it needs to be. Thank you.
Minister, if we could conclude on this matter now, please.
Thank you, Cancola. And yeah, I have extended the scheme to those that are medically unfit to drive, so they'll get the free travel pass. And I think that was important. And I really do want to acknowledge the work of Epilepsy Ireland, because I spoke to them on a number of occasions, and they pointed out to me that people with epilepsy couldn't drive for over a year. For anybody that can't drive for more than a year, and they did a lot of work on that. And I met with them only last week on World Epilepsy Day, and and we're hoping to be inviting applications for the new scheme in May. And they were advocating for people with epilepsy, but I was delighted I was able to expand it further. In terms of the bike scheme, I don't know the cost of hiring a bike. I can't. You're right, Deputy. €3.
Subscription, but
yeah,
after that, mostly free.
Yeah, it's not a huge cost there. I don't know. I don't know how it would work out. But I'm always looking at things when it comes up to budgets, and I look at that. And I can discuss it further with you, and I'm certainly happy to look at how we can improve the lot for people with that can't drive, how we can improve the situation for them. So that's it. Thank you.